Are you gonna be able to talk on this? Or am I gonna have to do all the talking?
I'm gonna try. So, I don't have my hat.
Do you need to borrow mine?
It's all right.
Mine doesn't say I'm a survivor sanctuary. Look at that. It says Longhorn Lester's. You need to tip my hat.
Yeah. Hey, folks. So, welcome back. I'm sorry we missed out on last week's episode. We were super busy, and as we're going to talk about today, we had something come up, so to speak. Daniel did go to Okie Homestead last weekend. We were both supposed to be speakers there, and I did not get to make the trip. So I'm gonna kind of go backwards here, and we weren't sure if we were gonna share the story, but ultimately I feel like we need to.
We need to, yeah. So if you came to the Okie Homesteading Expo, you know what we're gonna talk about today. There's just no easy way, and we share our lives with you guys, and the highs and the lows and the good and the bad. I feel like this is important for us to share. At the Okie Homesteading Expo, I was scheduled and planned to talk about soil blocks and seed startings, and we spread seeds in a different way, I guess, that day. We didn't talk about soil blocks and seeds and all that stuff. I talked about the day that we almost lost our kids.
I'm not gonna.
This is going to be a very difficult video to make, and I'll be honest with you. The reason so we had an accident with some friends, and we'll talk about the accident and everything what happened, but it was on the Thursday before the Okie Homesteading Expo, which was on Saturday, and I wasn't going to go. There was a lot going on, and we had a bad situation, and I wasn't going to go, but I just felt it was important because I had told so many hundreds and thousands of people, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of people that I was going to be there, that we were going to be there. And there were so many people that showed up from all over the country that said, we came because we knew you were going to be here and we wanted to hear you speak. And I just felt like, quite honestly, I felt like God put things in place and things happened, and I felt like I needed to go there and tell this story. And it was an incredibly emotional roller coaster, a hard story to tell just a couple days after it happened. It's been, not quite 2 weeks.
No, it's just been a week and 2 days.
Yeah. So it's still pretty fresh. Mom's gonna struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be able to talk on this? Or am I going to have to do all the talking?
I'm going to try. So, as y'all know, we have our razor, and we love going riding with our friends that have one too. And it was the Thursday of spring break, and it was just a normal day for us to go out there, and nothing, looking back, nothing was weird or off or... and so, to kind of set the story, it was, Daniel was driving, then me, and then Emily and Weston were in ours, and in the other one, it was our friends Richie and Tracy, and, Houston was with them, and then, another friend with us, which y'all probably see later. We'd just been driving around. We hadn't been there very long. We got there about 1 o'clock, and we had just cruised around, and then we were at this one place where everyone gets out and we just hang out and eat snacks, and the kids were throwing rocks and playing, and anyway, then Houston and Emily kind of started bickering because they were kind of getting bored, and I was like, all right, let's go ride, and so we just all get back in, and we put our seatbelts on. We never ride in there without them. You might have to tell this part.
So where we, this off-road ATV park in our area is pretty rough country, mountainous area. And when we say mountains in Oklahoma, we're not talking about Colorado mountains, but just huge rock hills, basically. And these machines are just built, and we've done some modifications and tires and things to make them just mini rock crawlers. So we take off up this hill, and a hill that we've climbed, I don't know, a dozen times probably. There's several different paths up this one hill, but the hill we've gone up it 12 or 15 times in different trails up the same hill. But so our friend Richie had gone up it already once, and he said, hey, it's kind of different. These trails get so wore out and washed out, and so many different machines and Jeeps and trucks and, you know, all this stuff going up it. They change. He said at the top of the hill, there's a big rock on the left and a cedar tree on the right. He said, you need to stay to the left, hug that rock and kind of climb over the rock so you don't hit the tree. So we get up there, we climb the hill, make it all the way to the top, get right to where that rock is, and I just slowly ease up on this rock. And I'm not kidding when I say this razor's made to rock crawl. It'd climb over this couch and you wouldn't even know it. You know, it's just made to go over big obstacles. So we kind of ease up on this rock and get the left tires up on it, and the right side, I guess, had probably washed out and been rutted out by other vehicles a lot more than what I thought. So as we ease up on it, the right side kind of drops down in the hole, and it just kind of gets stuck right there. And it's resting against this cedar tree on the right side, like right next to DJ and Weston, like literally 2 miles an hour. When it just sticks there. Well, when it did, you know, it leaned against that tree, and the left tires were off the ground. Not really a big deal. He didn't roll. We're just setting off.
Yeah, we were stopped, and me and the kids were cutting up. We were just waiting on him to, you know, get us
Fix
out
the
of
problem.
get us out of the.
So I said, hey, I'm going to put this thing in park. So I pushed the shifter to park, and I said I'm gonna get out and just pull those tires back down on the ground. And so I did that. I got out, and we put those big rock slider bars on the sides of it, like running boards. I got out of the buggy, and I'm standing on that rock bar and holding onto the frame of the roof, and it just literally slowly sets back down on the ground. Like, no, it did exactly what I thought it would do. Problem is, I guess with it being on a hill and the transmission was just in a bind because of the way it stopped, I really don't have a good explanation. When I put it in park, I thought it was in park. That's all I can say. And as soon as those two tires hit the ground, it started to roll backwards. And here's the only thing I can think of to equate it to is if you park your car or your truck on a hill, so you're pointing downhill when it's parked, and when you get in it and you go from park down to drive, that transmission bangs real loud because the transmission's in a bind. That's all I can figure happened, is it just wasn't able to lock into park. And a Polaris RZR doesn't actually have a parking brake like a lot of side-by-sides do. It's built into the transmission when it's in park. So that means the brakes weren't locked. And with me partially inside and partially out of the vehicle, it starts rolling backwards. Fast, like it happened so fast. And I was trying to get in as it's bouncing backwards, and it basically just tossed me out. I wasn't able to get back in quick enough. It throws me to the ground and takes off just rolling backwards down the hill without a driver. And so I'm laying on the ground, but without anybody in control of this vehicle. Obviously it's in reverse, or it's just going backwards, but the front tires are just going all over the place, and it doesn't stay on the trail. There's nothing to keep it on the course that we came up. And it rolls down the hill, and it kind of runs into a dead cedar tree that they'd cut down and pulled off the trail. And when it did, that kind of threw it sideways, and it goes off of a big rock and just flips straight backwards. The buggy, it just went straight over backwards onto its top and rolled onto its side. And this all happened in like 3 seconds. And before I can even get up and try to make my way down this big hill, DJ came out of nowhere. I don't know how she got out so fast. She was screaming for me like a not just a little bit of a panic, but like blood curling, like the most awful thing I've ever heard from her, screaming my name because she doesn't know where I'm at. Like I just disappeared in her mind. And
but the kids weren't talking to me as soon as we stopped. I don't remember getting out. I don't remember unbuckling. I know I did, but I don't remember getting out. I just remember, yelling at the kids, and they were talking to me. And I had to get out to get to them the way we landed.
It was on its side. It landed on the passenger side, so it's sitting up. So by the time I got down to the buggy, DJ screaming, Weston was bleeding tremendously from a big gash on his head, and he was kind of above Emily. She's literally still strapped in the seatbelt and is completely unconscious, not responding, nothing, and there's blood everywhere because Weston's bleeding. And I don't know, so I crawled in the back of the buggy. The cage, the roll cage, protective roll cage, did its job, but it was crushed in pretty bad on the back. So I had to kind of crawl in and kind of hold Emily while Richie, our friend, helped me. We got her unbuckled, and I just set her down. I'm only like, my head and shoulders and arms are inside the buggy, but I'm laying on the outside. And, 14 years of law enforcement training, I was able to stay calm. DJ was not calm. I was trying to control the situation and figure out what was going on with Emily, all while Houston was in a panic. DJ was in a panic, so I made DJ call 911. She had to climb back up the hill, and I wasn't sure on Emily's condition because there was about a minute that she was completely unresponsive. After about a minute or so, I was able to get her to move a little bit, to tell me what was going on, tell me, she was starting to wake up. So I was feeling a little bit better, but I'm looking down and there's blood all over both arms. There's blood on my hands. I don't know if it's her blood, Weston's blood, my blood. I just know there's blood everywhere. And I basically just sit there and supported her head and neck because I didn't know how long it was going to take to get paramedics to us, how long it was going to take her to be able to tell me what's hurt, So we just sit there for an eternity, it felt like, because we're 3 miles back into this park and you can't get there in an ambulance. So we sit there for at least 10 minutes. And in the meantime, they got Weston out, and Tracy and Richie were mostly Tracy, our friend, was kind of taking care of Weston, but his memory was only about 10 seconds.
Listen, I also want to say, I'm so glad that she was there. She literally took off her shirt to put on his head to stop the bleeding. And I knew she was taking care of him so we could focus on Emily, because she was what appeared to be in the worst condition.
So we sit there with Emily for, I honestly don't know how long it was, at least 10 minutes before I felt we needed to move. We needed to do something. We needed to make a decision. Either we're going to sit here and wait until paramedics can get to us, or we need to get her out and get her out of here. And so after about 10 minutes or so, she had got to where she was conscious and talking to me and could tell me she could move her hands, move her feet. Everything was in pretty good shape, it felt like. You just never know with a neck and spine injury. You know, you don't want to move someone if you don't have to, but she was coming around, we got her to set up, and I felt like in the moment it was safe enough to get her out of the machine, out of the buggy, and then figure out the next steps. So I get her to where she can set up. So I get outside the buggy, and so if the roof's here, I kind of go over the top, and I get her to stand up and pick her up. And as soon as I picked her up and I kind of carried her 10 feet, set her on the ground, as soon as I set her down, she started vomiting. And obviously that's not a good sign, but she was conscious, she was talking to us, and you know, we sat there for, I don't know, a couple minutes, and we made the decision, hey, let's load everyone up, the four of us, in the other Razor, in Richie and Tracy's Razor, and we're gonna drive out of there because, like I said, we're 2 to 3 miles back into an off-road park, and we knew the paramedics were on the way, but there was no way they could get to us. So we loaded up. DJ got in the back with Emily, and I got Weston in the front, and Richie and Tracy and Houston and our other friend were able to get my Razor back onto its wheels, and he was going to drive it out of there. So we took off without him, drove a couple miles out to the ambulance, and when we got to the ambulance, we get them, you know, they're conscious, but Weston still, his memory lasts about 10 seconds, and that's it. And so we get them all in the ambulance, and so we're pretty concerned. You know, the medics are very concerned about what's going on, and Emily kept saying her shoulder was hurting really bad. They thought she might have had a broken shoulder, clavicle, something broken in that area, and they were really afraid, you know, Weston may have some sort of serious head injury. So they called air evac, called 2 helicopters, and so they were going to fly both kids to 2 separate hospitals because one's not a kid, one's an adult technically.
Yeah, and I said, no, they need to go to the same, if we can. I need them to be in the same place. And thankfully, that worked out for us.
Well, it was 2 separate hospitals.
It was, but
they're about 2 blocks apart. So yeah. OU Medical Center and Children's. So fast forward, I don't want to go into all the details, but we get both kids triaged in the ambulance, move about 3 miles to a landing zone. They bring 2 helicopters, and our kids, 2 of our kids, take off in a helicopter. And at that time, we honestly don't know the seriousness of their injuries, but they were hurt. They were hurt bad, and we knew it. The problem was, by helicopter, they're 30 minutes from the trauma center. By car, we're an hour and a half on a good day. With traffic,
not a good day for traffic.
With traffic, it was like 2 hours. So our children, 2 of our 3 kids, take off in a helicopter, and we have no idea how bad they're hurt.
I will say that I don't know who all was there. I know I cried on a fireman, and he held me while I was waiting on Daniel to get there.
Because she rode in the ambulance to the landing zone. I had to go get our vehicle.
Cop from Davis.
Okay.
Yeah, and he had to go get our truck, and so I was down there waiting with the firemen and a couple cops, I think. I don't remember. So we were waiting. I was waiting for the helicopter to get there. The first one was coming from Ardmore, one was coming from Duncan. And so Weston got flown out first, and then Emily got flown out about 15 minutes after him. But all the the police and the EMS and the fireman, I don't know who he was, and I feel terrible, but he literally let me just cry on him while I was waiting on Daniel, because I was up there essentially by myself. And anyway, they were all amazing. the pilot for the helicopter came and talked to me. They called me as soon as they both landed, told me what they were doing with them, and that they were both conscious and talking, and they were okay, for the time being. And anyway, so then we finally get there. There's construction all over I-35 per the norm, and it took us forever to get to them. It literally felt like, I don't even know what it felt like. It was excruciating drive to Oklahoma City.
It was. But so we make it to Oklahoma City to the hospitals, 2 hospitals, about 2 blocks apart. Get to Weston first. And they would only let one person go in the hospital, period. Like, one person in the building from the family. So DJ went in to see Weston.
Yeah, they had already put 2 staples in his head, and he was on morphine. And so he was just resting. They just wanted his brain to rest, and so they'd given him morphine, and so he was sleeping. And then I started kissing him and, kind of loving on him, and she was like, no, don't do that. You don't want to stimulate him right now. Anyway, she said, just let him rest. I told her my daughter was down at Children's and that I was going to go check on her, and so, which that's where Daniel had gone. And so, and thankfully my sister-in-law lives in the city part-time, and so Marissa had actually gotten to...
She went to Emily.
Yeah, she went to Emily first. So she was actually there.
She wasn't in the... Well, she went to the hospital. They wouldn't let her go in by herself because she wasn't...
She tried to
parent.
go in with Weston.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she was there at Weston's hospital. Mm-hmm. So we went to Emily's... Marissa and I went down to Emily's hospital, and it's crazy. Children's Hospital is 2 blocks away. Totally different rules. Like, we just walk in the door like we own the place, and went up to the desk and said, my daughter's in emergency room 5, and they just open the door and we just go in. And when we get to Emily, I'm expecting the worst. Like, maybe not the worst, but I'm expecting it to be pretty bad. Like, pretty serious injuries. And I walk in and she's just, well, at first she was in CT and x-ray when we got there. But when they bring her back into the room, and she's just laughing and giggling and cutting up like no big deal. And the first thing she talks about is her friend was...
She talked about them. We need to back up. She talked about them as we were driving them on the Razor out to the ambulance. And I'm holding her head, trying to keep her still because it's bumpy and stuff through there. And she can't open her eyes because her head hurts so bad. And I was just trying to talk to her to keep her talking to me. And she interrupted me once, and she said, Mom, please tell my friends, tell Paige and Rilla that I'm okay. And that's even before we made it to the ambulance.
Yeah. So at the hospital, when I first get in the room, she's like, hey, Paige her friend was having knee surgery on Tuesday the following week. And she was like, me and Paige can be Crips together. I was like, what? And because there's surgery, and because of Paige's surgery, she was having knee surgery, and they could be cripples. They could be cripple kids together. Yeah. I don't know why they call it Crips, but that's way before the Bloods and the Crips. Before Emily doesn't know what that means. But
no.
So she was literally laughing and cutting up, and like had no injuries other than a little cut on her head that they put a couple staples in. So,
and a minor concussion.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as far as broken bones or serious like collapsed lungs or, like nothing. There were no serious injuries, and I was just in shock. I mean, we put 2 kids on 2 different helicopters, and we had no idea how bad it was going to be, but we knew it was bad. Mm-hmm. And a minor concussion and 2 staples in their heads. Basically, the cage, when it rolled, the cage crushed in, and the roll cage hit them. I mean, there's no doubt seatbelt saved everyone's life that was involved. Yep. But we put 2 kids on a helicopter, and we had no idea. And word spreads fast, so incredibly fast. So before we made it to the hospital, which was a couple hours, but still, like, the Okie homesteading event had already been going on for a couple days. Like, that was day 1 when they were doing their hog processing stuff. And I was getting text messages from guys there asking what happened and what was going on and telling us they were praying for us. And both of our phones were blowing up because of so many people, not even just wanting to know what was going on, just those messages, hey, we heard about the accident, we're praying for you. And there's no way to explain this other than God performed a miracle, in my opinion, on the way. Like, both of those kids, like, we had no idea. How do we get to a hospital, get to 2 different hospitals? Both of their doctors are like, they're good. They're good. They're going to get 2 staples apiece. Exactly the same thing. Emily went from unconscious, puking, and possibly a broken shoulder, and who knows what all, to her bubbly self giggling and laughing, and she was literally taking pictures with her phone because there was a little blood spot on the bed behind her, and she was showing everybody. Like, and Weston, like, his memory, I'm not kidding when I say he couldn't remember longer than 10 seconds. When we saw him get on, put in the ambulance, helicopter, everything, like, all he could say every 10 seconds was, how's Emily? Is Emily okay? Is Emily okay? And it was the most heart-wrenching thing because his only concern at the time was his sister. But he couldn't remember anything that we would tell him. It was literally 10 seconds, and he was in a new world every 10 seconds. And to go from so many things that could be wrong to, we just landed in Oklahoma City, and both of their doctors are like, they're good. We can't explain it, but there's no injuries. And there were so many people praying for our kids, and before we could even get to them, like, they were healed. Yeah. I mean, not 100%. They're still sore. Like, it's been over a week, and they're still sore, and still have, it's any accident, any serious accident, you're going to be sore for a long time. I mean, there's bruises and bumps and headaches, but, like, we got up and walked out of the hospital that night and came home. I was thinking we would be in the hospital for days, and we weren't. Oh. And I told the story at the Okie homesteading event because I needed that. I needed to deal with that. I needed to tell that story, and I knew it was going to be a while before we could talk about it on YouTube. And people were like, "Well, you don't have to tell that story." But I'm telling you what, and this is what I said at the Okie homesteading event when I told that story, with Houston standing next to me in front of an audience of probably 800 people. I stood up there and cried for 10 minutes probably. You have to deal with these things, but there was about 3 seconds, I feel like, when that razor kicked me out and it threw me on the ground. We went from a stopped position, everybody's sitting there giggling and laughing, to I'm laying on the ground watching three of our 5 people roll backwards down a hill out of control with no one driving. Like, that's what I said at the Okie homesteading event was, I felt like I was literally looking into hell. Like, that was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of chaos and a lot of tragedy and a lot of death in law enforcement. And that was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. And it would be one thing if we were being stupid. Like, if we were driving 50 miles an hour on a dirt road and missed a curve and hit a tree, like, I get it. We weren't. We were doing what we do all the time. It was just a straight up accident. But I literally was in, I don't know, all I said at the Okie homesteading event was I saw 3 seconds of hell. There's no doubt. That's, to me, that was the most excruciating fear I've ever seen. And then when she got out and was screaming my name, it scared me. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people, we've had that razor for a year, over a year. And I know a lot of people have warned us. I get it. Yes, they're dangerous, but I've been on four-wheelers and side-by-sides my entire life. But people die in lawnmower accidents. People die in boat accidents, car accidents. Like, our cows out here could hurt somebody just as bad. Like, it's not, to me, it's not the machine's fault. I'm not blaming the machine, and I'm not saying we were being reckless. Accidents happen anywhere and everywhere. And it's just those things happen and you see that God's in control. You know, like I have no doubt that people praying for our kids and God's intervention, like, saved our family.
Yep. And I mean, you know, it kind of stinks because we enjoy doing that so much, like as a family and with our friends. Like, you know, we've known Richie and Tracy for many, many years. But until a year and a half ago or so, we weren't super close. And this razor riding brought us together. And, you know, I kind of feel like God did that on purpose. He put them in our lives like he did. And for us to enjoy being outside and being together and as a family and with our friends. And, you know, I think he does everything for a reason. And I mean, I think that was an accident. It happened, and you know, God definitely took care of us. And but I do think that he's saying, okay, find something else, you know, and that's what we're gonna do. We'll find something else.
I agree, but I'll say this: after talking and telling that story to 800 people, it helped me more than it helped anyone in the audience. I have no doubt. It helped me to tell that story, and that's how it's just such a good way for me to deal with stress, and is to talk about it. And I'm not the only person like that, but after I shared that story, the rest of the day I had people coming up to me, which I totally understand. They wanted to tell me, you know, that they were sorry it happened and they're glad we're okay. But I couldn't tell you how many people come up to me and said that message was for me. Like that shook me to the core. You know, that message was for that person. Or, you know, one person come up to me and they were like, you know, you stood up there and said you weren't talking about seed starting today, but you planted more seeds than you'll ever know. And it was just me sharing and a tragic story, but a testimony.
And before he even got home, that later that evening, we had received so many emails. Of course, I was in no shape to respond that day. I tried to later. I stayed home, obviously, with the kids, and we had people here taking care of us and came to check on us and bring us food and all that. And he wasn't going to go, but I made him go. I said, no, you have to go. He didn't want to leave us, but, you know, he needed to be there. I mean, not only just for the fans, but to share the story. We've just received so many emails and outpouring thanking us for sharing our faith. And I was going to say this a while ago, but you know, at first I didn't want to tell the story. When people asked, I didn't want to talk about it. I couldn't get through the story. But you know, I think it kind of happened because we do share our faith, and God wants us to continue doing that. And he showed us that he is still in the miracle making business, and he's with us all the time. I saw him that day.
It's crazy. You know, we were at the Okie homesteading event, or when we were in Kentucky at the National Farm and Machinery Show, the people that came to just shake hands or take a picture or say hi or just to support us, I would say 75% of those people said thank you for sharing your faith on your channel, because no one else does it. I'm not saying no one, but the vast majority, the general world and TV and all that, no one really truly shares that. Like, there's so many good people and there's so many good Christians out there, but you don't know it. You know, I equate it to, I watched Jimmy Houston for my entire life on TV. He was a cool fisherman on TV. I had no idea he was so deep in his faith, passionate about Christ and people and telling people about Christ. I had no idea until, not even that we got to know him when we're personal friends with him, that's one thing, but through his YouTube channel and his second YouTube channel, like he does a daily devotion. He's a deacon in a local church. Like, it's just, there's Jimmy I always knew was a good guy. I had no clue what kind of Christian man he was. So having that opportunity to share that through his YouTube channel and stuff, like, changed how I saw him. And that's the consensus when people come to say hi and shake hands and take pictures and stuff, is they tell us, keep planting those seeds, because that's what you're supposed to do. And this is just our way. And I even said it at the Okie Noodling, not Okie Noodling, the Okie Homesteading Expo. You know, I always just tell this joke. There's the difference in a cop and a preacher is their sermon length. A cop's about 3 minutes on the side of the road, and a preacher's about 30 minutes. You know, I'm not a preacher. Don't plan on being a preacher, but I believe it's our job to spread the word. And when miracles happen and when God answers prayers, don't keep it a secret. Like, you just never know what's going to affect someone else. And that's, I don't know. That's the main response I've got from people is keep talking about it. So
hopefully it just gets easier.
It doesn't always have to be tragedy, but scary situation. It's just scary how fast your family can go from happy-go-lucky, everything's great. I mean, all 5 of us were together with some friends, having a good time, just hanging out, to we almost went to a family of 3 in an instant. Could have been a family of just me and Houston, easily. If we had been wearing seatbelts in that Razor, I guarantee you we wouldn't all 5 be here today. I promise you.
I agree. Yeah. I did go to the doctor, to the hospital a few days later. And I've got some pretty gnarly bruising.
Seatbelt bruises for sure.
Yeah. I'm not complaining about bruises. I did have a concussion. But other than that, that's it. So. A
little bit of wounded pride.
I don't care about pride. I'm just glad that they're okay.
And they'll be fine. In other news, that happened on Thursday, the following Tuesday, which was just a couple days ago for us, Weston had knee surgery.
No, Thursday.
Thursday, yeah, not Tuesday. So a week later, Weston had knee surgery, which was pre-planned.
Yeah.
He had a torn meniscus from basketball, and that went okay. It went all good. He's recovering, from 2 events. But other than that, we're all good. We're all here, and look forward to maybe finding another hobby. Well, that we really need another hobby.
I don't know. Maybe we just travel more.
Too many animals now.
That's true.
We're committed here.
All right, guys. I do not have questions today. I knew this story would take a while, so next week will be more normal kind of episode. Hopefully no more adrenaline anywhere. And then...
Do you have a song?
I have a song.
Well, I want to talk about something else first. Okay. Another song. So early on in spring break this year, just a few days before this accident, the kids, I say the kids, teenagers seem to be fans of Parker McCollum.
You're going to kind of encroach on what was going to be my topic last week, but go ahead. It's fine.
So we took the kids to a Parker McCollum concert, rodeo concert. Okay, I'm not going to tell you the whole story about all that, But Parker has a song, and I didn't really listen to him much until Weston kind of got me into it, and he's got 4 or 5 really good songs. But the whole way to the hospital, and it was DJ and I in the front seat, and her mom in the back seat, and on my radio was Parker McCollum, I Can't Breathe. And that song like has nothing to do with what happened, has nothing to do with that tragedy, but listening to that song now, like I can remember most of the way to the hospital, you literally couldn't breathe. Like I had to talk DJ through combat breathing, like to breathe in, hold, exhale, hold, like I can't breathe. And that song, like there's just something about it now, like thinking about it, it's songs do burn things into your memory forever. And now I can have these memories of watching this Parker McCollum concert with my kids and my wife and Katie, and then there's this tragedy and I can't breathe. Like I just have this, I don't know, it's a powerful song, but it has nothing to do with faith or anything like that. But I'll never forget that. And that song will always make me remember that ride to the hospital.
I hadn't really had a chance to, I don't know, let it go, I guess, let it out, because it was just, I couldn't stop, you know. And so when we were on the way up there, I was able to just, I don't even, just glad it turned out okay.
It did. We're all here.
Yeah.
So what was your song?
I've said it on here before, but I don't even care that I'm going to reuse it. It's my favorite song, Evidence, because it says I see your goodness all over my life, and I did that day, and every day since then when I look at them, I just want to like keep them prisoners here now.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, even though they were with us, they weren't, you know, it was just, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to make them little prisoners.
No.
We're going to keep living and talking about God, because he is good all the time.
That's it.
That's it. I hope you'll have a good week. And as always, do your best.